Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed right into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and of course, in our lives. Let's jump right on in. I'm Annie, and joining me in everything is Minna.
So we are officially 54.
Yes, we are.
Yay! No.
I don't feel 54 though. I don't feel
Sure,
54.
you still feel 53.
So if you haven't figured it out yet, we're called the foolish couple because not only do we share the same birthday, we share it on April Fool's Day. And of course, we're a little bit foolish in everything that we do. So that's where the whole foolish couple comes in, right?
Have I told you that my mom was going to call me April and she changed her mind?
No, you didn't.
So she was going to call me April because, my older sister is an A, my second sister is Z.
Mm.
So she figured she was not another A. But because I'm born on April Fool's Day, and if she calls me April and I turns out to marry some guy that with last name that's Fool, that would be really, really bad for me. So she picked an M instead of an A.
So my last name was Fu. That would be
That would
sort
be
of funny.
bad. That would be a deal breaker.
Oh my God, that is too funny. That is too funny. So this year, celebrating our birthday on April Fool's Day, we're just talking about wins and losses through the years. And, we've been together for a little while now. Like, okay, let me do the test on you. How long we've been together?
Too long.
That isn't an answer.
30 some odd years.
30.
38 years.
So we've been together 38 years. And I got to say that, we had a lot of ups and downs through our life, and having each other there, not only as partners, as lovers, whatever you want to call it, as business partners, it definitely helped us go through a lot of turmoil, right? And I think a lot of people now, there's a problem that the whole nation is starting to see more of, and latest statistics show there's about 25% of the U.S. population, and what they're suffering is chronic loneliness, right? And that's something that we want to talk a little bit about starting the episode off, because we're going to lead to our guest that's going to be talking about depression, and a lot of times loneliness can lead to depression.
For sure. So I'm seeing something that is really strange that, I'm from Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong I went to an all-girls school.
Mhm.
And in my class, probably 30-ish% of the girls, same age as me, are still single and they never dated, which is very strange.
It is strange, and I think it's getting a little bit harder, especially in the last 3-4 years, with everything that happened. And of course, we don't want to talk that to death, but it did drive a lot more people to be alone, and it driven more people to depend on, watching movies, watching social media, and start to compare their lives to others, and that just makes them feel more alone. And chronic loneliness, it can cause a lot of health problems, right?
Well, so, Kelly Clarkson has a song, right? So being alone, it doesn't mean you're lonely, but, alone just means you're by yourself. It doesn't mean you're depressed, doesn't mean you're unhappy. So when you're lonely, there's all sorts of negative emotions that's going on that actually can physically hurt you, right? It's not just that you're in a mental state that you're not happy, but it can actually physically hurt you.
Yeah, and all these negative thoughts, they're showing that chronic loneliness, feeling alone, feeling that you don't matter, feelings of no one cares about you, no one knows about you, there's no one to share your feelings with. That can actually hurt your health more than obesity or even smoking.
Yeah, I feel like, one of those things that we would like to blame is social media, and I think it's true that social media does makes us more lonely. Can you imagine if today is like your birthday and you get no greetings on Facebook, and then you feel like nobody cares?
That is true, and it was funny because it's funny how you mentioned that, and because we both had our birthdays, like you mentioned, and of course Facebook in all of its infinite wisdom will put on your timeline. Is that what it is? Your timeline? Who wished you a happy birthday? And I'm looking, look, I have X amount of friends, and I only have maybe 10% that wish me a happy birthday. Is like, what's the rest of these other 90% people doing? Are they even my friends? But it's sort of true. I can totally get it. Like, not that I cared. We made a little competitions to see which of us got more birthday wishes. But of course, we're joking about it. But imagine if you're taking that seriously and you really were saying, well, how come no one's paying attention to me? How come no one's wishing me a happy birthday? Definitely, you can definitely feel alone there,
Yeah. So when you're lonely, what does it do to your physique? What does it do to your body?
Well, when you're constantly feeling you're alone, the feeling of being that you don't matter in this world, it can raise your stress to the next level, right? There's talking about the stress about homework, the stress about, your kids, your cats, your dogs, whatever. But when you're feeling lonely, the stress level, it goes like infinitely higher, and it disrupts everything because now, it's harder to sleep because you're not falling asleep soundly because you have these thoughts of loneliness, right? You have these thoughts of, do I matter in this world? Like, you're questioning everything. And of course, all these negative thoughts can increase inflammation in your body. And of course, inflammation feeds all diseases, and it can lower your immune system.
It's interesting because when you talk to like moms, they always complain about, well, kids getting into their heads and work getting into the heads. But when you're actually alone, you're getting into your own head, and you're actually
Mm-hmm.
hurting yourself, and you're inflaming your own body and lowering your own immune system all by yourself.
Correct. So, why do you think people are feeling more alone and having the feeling of loneliness?
Well, when we first started the what do you call it, the stay-at-home thingy, work,
Work from home?
the work from home thing.
Yeah.
You were all stir crazy, remember?
I was actually, because
So you have to walk outside.
Yeah.
You have to see somebody.
Yeah, definitely. I like to be around people. Like, all that pent up negativeness was just driving me nuts.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
working from home is can cause loneliness to some people. Some of the times, people that works a lot, they travel a lot,
Hmm.
and because they travel a lot, they don't get to see their whole family. They don't get to see their friends. They see different people all the time, but they are not interacting the way that is meaningful to that person, and that could be stressful too. And that actually could be lonely, even though you're seeing a lot of people.
That's so true. And I think people are moving farther and farther away. And if you're further from your friends or family that you used to see on a daily basis or weekly basis, that can definitely put you into a loneliness rut too, I imagine.
For sure. And also, if you're spending a lot of time online, on your phone, on your tablet, I don't know what you do, playing games, YouTube videos, TikTok, whatever it is that you do online, you're actually taking you away from the people around you, right?
Hmm.
Remember when I was talking to you about the Apple?
Vision Pro.
Yeah, you've been
Yes.
talking about that for a while, and I know you have one of your friends that bought it, and like,
Yeah.
I know that you want one, but like, why would you watch a movie with a Vision Pro next to me with another Vision Pro when we can just be watching a movie?
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. It's just isolating you more.
And it's funny because but you can have an avatar, so you can have your virtual Minna seeing in your Vision Pro. I was like, yeah, that's a great interaction when I can just put my hand over and hold a hand there. Like, why would I be like virtually, holding the hand in my avatar? Yeah, it's a little crazy.
But that's loneliness. That's actually driving loneliness. Like, if that's how you can find interaction with avatars, I think you need to find something to do.
Yeah. So, what are some tips that we can give our viewers here how to combat loneliness?
Well, you can go to a gym or a club or chess club or book club, some type of
Fight club? No, not fight club.
I don't know where to find fight clubs, but gyms are a great start. Everybody's
Good.
friendly at gyms, and you can chill out, and you don't actually have to work out at the gym. There are a lot of people that don't work out at gyms.
That's so true. And networking events are great too, right? There's a lot of business networking events, masterminds, Toastmasters, right? You can really go out there and get to know people. And it's just sort of nice being around real people because you're having real conversations, right? As opposed to just writing comments on all the social media posts, thinking that you're actually having a conversation, right?
Yeah, and actually go hang with your friends. Don't just text or, play video games with them. Really interact in person with a friend. And you don't need a lot of friends. You just need a couple of good ones that you can hang out with. And that's enough for you to take you out of your loneliness.
Exactly. And if you have a significant other, make sure you find some date time and spend some time with them, because even though you may have someone, but if you're not spending time with them, you're going to be alone.
And of course, you can always adopt a pet.
Yes.
There's always cats and dogs that's waiting for you to give them your love. They would keep you company, and they are actually the best company you can have.
Exactly.
They don't talk back to
you. We depend on our cats whenever one of us travel, and you never feel alone.
Sure.
Coming right back, we're going to have the guest of our week right after this commercial. All right, strap in, folks. We're about to take a joyride through the fountain of youth. It's Annie Nam from Chronically Healthy Life. Ever wonder why some folks seem to age like fine wine, while others are more like a molded cheese that's been forgotten in the back of the fridge? It's like they got the energy of a Duracell bunny on Red Bull, while the rest of us are running on fumes. Now, you might think hitting the gym and munching on kale is the ticket to eternal youth, but sometimes it feels more like we're just speeding up the aging process. Picture this. You're on the treadmill, feeling like $1,000,000, and suddenly you look down and realize your knees sound like a bag of popcorn in the microwave. Not exactly the sound of youth, am I right? But fear not, my friends, because here's the kicker. It's not just about the number of candles on your birthday cake. It's all about those sneaky little stem cells playing hide and seek inside your body. At the age of 20, you got more of these bad boys than you can shake a stick at. But fast forward a few decades, and they're scarce as a parking spot in downtown Manhattan. But guess what? We got a secret weapon up our sleeves. Phototherapy patch technology without drugs. That's right, folks. With our stem cell activation patches, you can hit the rewind button on aging faster than you can say reverse aging. So if you're ready to reclaim your youth, look younger, feel stronger, and heal faster than a superhero with a side of espresso, then it's time to hop on board the rejuvenation train. Schedule your free consultation now at calendly.com/thefoolishcouple/stem cells. And let's make aging look like yesterday's news. It's not anti-aging, it's reverse aging, baby.
Hey, everybody. I got asked the question, how do I know that my child is spending too much time online or on their phone, on the computer, playing video games, too much screen time? How do you know? Well, I think you as parents do know. I think you naturally can sense that your child has spent all day Saturday in front of a computer and barely moved. It's not really that difficult to figure out. And so one of the very simplest things you can do to start laying some boundaries around screen time is simply to create a little bit of structure. For example, let's say that you make sure that you all have family dinner together every night. Make it a rule that no phones, no devices at all, including the television being on during family dinner. That it's your time to connect, it's your time to talk, it's your time to, be with each other. But the key here is that so many times parents establish rules for the kids, but they don't abide by them themselves. Well, if you're constantly being distracted by text during family dinner, that's sending a clear message to your kids that it doesn't really matter that much. So if it's a rule, then make it a real rule and make it apply to everyone in the family and stick to it no matter what. That way you can make sure that for at least that time, there's some real connection. And when kids grow up, You know what they remember? Think about it. What do you remember from your childhood? We remember the moments, the connection, the emotional connections that we had with other people. That's what's really important. Okay, ciao. Life show. I would like to introduce you to our fabulous guest today, Dr. Nan Nelson, MD. She is a double board certified psychiatrist with over 30 years of experience. She has provided psychiatric services to VA hospitals, psychiatric hospitals, and has also worked with children and adolescents. Dr. Nelson earned her medical degree from the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio. She has also written several books, including the adorable children's book, The Moose Who Loved TV. Welcome to the show, Dr. Nan.
Hi. Where do we start? It's good to see you again, Christy.
It's good to see you too. I was looking forward to this tonight. Well, our topic for today, we actually thought it would be interesting for our audience to dive into bipolar disorder and specifically and how it kind of is distinguished from other things that it is often mistaken for, such as ADHD or narcissism. So let's start with just a general overview. Can you kind of give us a general overview of bipolar disorder and what it looks like?
So I made you some charts because I used to be a teacher long before I ever went to medical school. So I can't do anything without paper. So this is somewhat of an idea of what bipolar looks like. It means it means two. So people go down and then they go up. So everybody has things that happen. This is the day you step in the dog poop. This is the day you get money in your account. This is the day you have a flat tire. We all get affected by the things that go on around us. And we can have all kinds of emotions to it. So actual bipolar disorder, most people notice the depression first. So people have symptoms of sleeping, eating, crying, ruminative, their energy is up or down, they have guilt, they have a poor self-image, they have less pleasurable activities, they get helpless, they get hopeless, they have apathy, they get sad, and they think about death. At the very bottom, you can hallucinate or be delusional. So often people will come to me with depression. And so what I've learned is that dig a little deeper. You need to look at what's really going on, because this is what happens when you go see your primary care doctor and they put you on an antidepressant. So there can be some ramifications from that. So then people can flip and go the other direction where they don't sleep. They have more energy. They're impulsive. They talk fast. They make jumps in logic. They can be hypersexual. They can be grandiose. They spend money. They have racing thoughts. They get silly, giddy laughing, and they can hallucinate or be delusional. So if you look at it on a scale of 0 to 10, so the 5 to 0 is the depression, the 5 to 10 is the mania. And so I ask people to tell me where they are on both sides. So the co-founders that you talked about is ADHD, post-traumatic stress disorder, grief. And so you can be bipolar 1, where these are the stuff the movies are made out of. Bipolar 2 is where you go up, but you're not necessarily in control. You can have like dysthymic depression, which is like low-grade fever, where you just feel lousy for a length of time. So you look like you're trying to ask me something.
I am. Let's slow down a little bit. Let's go back to the highs and lows. So that's probably one of the most distinctive characteristics is the extreme highs and extreme lows, not just our normal daily. We all go through it. We all have like you said, this is when I stepped in dog poop. Then I get paid, and we go
I
kind
feel
of like
better.
that.
I can go out and buy things and do things that I didn't think I
Yeah.
could do before. Right.
Yeah. But now I'm gonna be really transparent because I'm a big believer in that. But my father was bipolar, so I'm pretty familiar with those extreme highs and lows. So,
And for people around who have people with bipolar, it's really hard to make sense of it because
mhm.
you go through this period and some people just switch fairly quickly. And so it's hard to know what to predict next.
Yes. One of the things I remember most about my dad was that he would just leave and he would drive across country without stopping or resting or eating. And I had the misfortune of being in the car with him a few times as a child when he's on one of those, and he wouldn't even stop to let me go to the bathroom or
Oh,
give me food.
yikes.
And so I think, I think that people, if you're thinking that maybe somebody in your family might have something, it's like, it's pretty extreme. Like,
Well, it could be more subtle than that as well. So that
yeah.
so if you're a type 2, you may notice that they spend all their money, but they don't necessarily take off across the country. Or they take off the country and then you don't know what to expect. So that's part of what you have a problem with bipolar. And often the purple person, when they're on the manic side, they don't hear how tough things are for other people. They lose track of everything around them.
Oh, see, that makes sense. That makes
Well,
sense.
it's because they're high. They're endless energy. They think everything is going to work out well, and it might. But they're doing some things that the rest of the world doesn't think is normal. And so often I ask people, does anybody ask you, are you high on something? Because they don't get that they're doing things that are inappropriate.
Yeah. And now if family members try to help them understand that they're like, you can't be going across country with a child and not stopping, say, that can
They
there
don't
be
hear
like,
you.
they don't hear you or they kind of flip out and it's like, well, you can't tell me what to do kind of thing?
Well, it's actually more, well, I don't need it. Why would the kid need it? Why
Oh,
do you think that? We were perfectly fine. Kid could pee in a bottle in the back seat, right? Who cares, right? They just don't deal with reality like the other people do. So one guy put on a Speedo, stood on his car, and had somebody drive him down the road singing "We Are the Champions," and he didn't really think that was a problem. Um, they don't have insight. So when they're at the top or at the bottom, most people don't have insight into what's going on. And that's where you have a hard time reaching the other person because they're not dealing with the same set of facts that you are.
mm. So how is it true that they can just swing down really fast?
So
Like,
just like there are lots of different ways of bipolar, there's lots of different ways to be up and down. So there are what they call ultra rapid metabolizers. So those are people that can go up and down in the same day. The average real bipolar that is in the textbooks, they do it 4 times a year. And usually summers are when they get manic because the days are longer and they don't sleep. So if you don't sleep, you're going to have a mood swing the next day. And because they're up having fun, they don't see any reason to go to bed. Why would I interrupt this? Why would I go to bed? Why would I finish this? I want to finish this. I want to do whatever I'm doing. And so they don't see the need to sleep. They feel good. And so the people that are on the manic part, that's when they feel the best. And so I have people say, well, why can't I just be manic? And I say, because you can't control it there. You know, the day that you feel good and everything clicks and you can sing and do what you need to at work, then spirals out of, you're doing really unusual things and it gets you into trouble. And it goes fast sometimes.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you said that most people will come to you for help when they're on the low, the depression
side, right,
side
right.
of it. Yeah.
So
I
when
would
I
assume-
tell other providers, I say, if you think depression, think mania. Check them both out, because if you put somebody on an antidepressant, you can flip them into mania and you can make them worse.
Oh.
So that's the piece that most people don't get. They go to their primary care doctor, they get put on an antidepressant, and the next thing they know, they're out of control.
Mm. They're driving down the highway on top of a car singing. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like I had one guy who he lived in Ohio and his wife was in the hospital in Texas, and he drove down to see her. And I said, "Have you not heard of the phone? I mean, there are steps in between, but they don't think of those. It's kind of all or nothing. And because they're grandiose, they don't get that there are other sides to this. They just don't think rationally. Later, then they get depressed and they realize what they may have done, and then they get morose. But the mania, and actually people think that mania is fun. It really is not necessarily, because you can hallucinate at the top. You don't make sense. You can get in trouble with the law. You say and do things that are inappropriate, and they're hard to get yourself out of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hallucinating, I've experienced that with my dad. I saw that, and it's just you just as a child, I just would sit there like, wait, what's happening? There's nobody there.
Right. And so how do you make sense with this? And how do you say, what are you seeing, Dad? Really?
Mhm.
I don't see
Yeah,
anything.
right. But then he couldn't communicate it,
Right. Right.
you know.
Or
Yeah.
sometimes they talk so fast you can't understand what they're telling you.
Mhm. And then on the dark side, they might not talk at all or push you away or any number of other depression related.
So when I talked about the downside, the hallucinations and delusions down here at the bottom of the depression are often things like my guts are rotting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they
So
have they have something called psychomotor slowing, where they're just kind of like moving in slow motion. They feel like they can hardly move, or they don't move. They just sit in one spot and sit or lay, and they don't necessarily get up.
do bipolar people ever try to self-medicate, like for like with drinking or
Well, that's
anything?
when they're having fun. And so actually, when I'm asking symptoms, I have to ask, so is that when you're using drugs and alcohol, or is that when you're sober? So how high do you go when you're sober? Um, so yes, it can definitely multiply everything, because alcohol is disinhibiting. So if you're standing next to your boss and you're at a party and you've been drinking, you say, let me tell you what I really think of you. And you may not have a job the next day, right? If you are not drinking, you say, oh, isn't this a lovely party? Did you see such and such? Oh, excuse me, I need to use the restroom. And you slip away and you've got a job the next day, right?
Mm.
So people who are drinking are disinhibited. And so if they're already doing things that are wild and unusual, it just amplifies it tremendously. That's when they really get into trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And the are there any other kinds of delusions that they have at the low besides like
Oh,
my
yeah,
best?
you can have all kinds. So it's as wide and as varied as the individual about what they can come up with and what they think is right or wrong. I'm trying to think of another good one.
Do they ever behave like a hypochondriac where they're just constantly running to the doctor for, oh my gosh, my eye twitched, I must be dying?
Yes. I have a lady who says she has short-term memory loss, and I look back through, 6, 12 months, and she's had short-term memory loss the entire time. But it's just now that she's beginning to say, oh, that's what it is. And so the whole world revolves around, I have short-term memory loss. So, you go get neuropsychological testing and see if in fact she really does. So lots of us go to the other room and say, what am I in here for? What did I forget? Did I do this? Did I do that? Did I lock the door? Did I turn off the curling iron? Did I unplug the iron? So many things that we just take as a part of our life, they then focus on and can't seem to get past it.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So, are there ever times where they level out, kind of organically level out and seem
So it
like
depends. So there's something called kindling, so that once you've done it, it's easier to do it again. It's like a seizure. Once you've had one seizure, it's easier to do it again. So once you've had depression or once you've had mania, it's easier to do it again. Yes, they can level out, but they need to sleep. So I tell my clients you need to sleep every night. So you need to really structure your life so that you go to bed at the same time, you get up at the same time, because you have what's called a circadian rhythm that lasts 24 hours in your body. And even when you do the time change of an hour, you can see what that does to your body. So you can only imagine if you're staying up till 4 a.m, getting up and going someplace at 7, and you're only, functioning on 3 hours of sleep, your brain doesn't handle that well. Or there's people who work nights and then they flip their days 3 days a week. It's probably one of the worst things you can do to your brain, because that whole circadian rhythm can't be figured out by your body. And so then if you're using drugs and alcohol, if you are doing some of the things that some of these people do, like buying $1,000 worth of something, or one guy got a loan for $5,000. He bought all these different things, and then he tried to sell some other things, and then he wanted the money back. And people don't do that very well. And then he couldn't understand why they didn't want to do that. Right. So that they're not using logic. They're not making 1 + 1 = 2. And they don't see always that they're making these jumps.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes they'll laugh and they'll say, yeah, that's me. That's what I do. Yeah, I do that.
Well, now when we were talking before, you were telling me that a lot of times people mistake this for ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the extreme highs and lows, I as a teacher, I never saw that with ADHD. I saw the distractions, and and jumping from thing to thing, but I never saw those extreme emotional highs and lows as much. Is that pretty
So
accurate? Or
the difference is ADHD doesn't come and go. Man, if you're like a Coke bottle that somebody shook it and it's spewing all over the place, you do it all the time. You do it at the dentist, you do it at the doctor's office, you do it in the principal's office, you do it in front of the teacher, you do it in the bathroom, you do it out on the playground. It just exists all the time. So what I say about children is that they get nattered. In the morning, they're up like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Stop that. What's the matter with you? Get over here now. You're going to eat breakfast? You're going to get your clothes on? We got to leave now. And so endlessly, somebody is going after them. But that's very different than being manic and or depressed, because manic depression comes and goes. ADHD stays. It doesn't go anywhere. And that's why the kids are always in trouble. Right?
Yeah, that's one of my pet peeves is like, I don't think ADHD kids should be in trouble. I think we should be figuring out a different way that's better for them. But
I
that's
agree,
another
but I'm just saying overall, as our society fits, that's what happens. And so many children and early adolescence is where you really start seeing the mood swings up and down. Adolescence is where you see the depression, and then you can see the mania, and a lot of it is exacerbated by drugs and alcohol. And so they don't get a pattern on that because they're not telling anybody else they're doing these things. And so you don't really get a chance to see that until they really get in trouble with the law. They end up in a hospital. They end up in some incarcerated situation. Then you begin to see the mood swings. So nobody's really following them like that until hormones change, and that's when you often see the depression. So there's even something called DMDD. So children were being mislabeled as bipolar. And so they have these irritable kids that have tantrums, and they are exquisitely uncooperative. But that's different than ADHD. These are kids that are just saying, I'm not doing it and you can't make me. And they make themselves miserable and they make everybody else miserable. And they have these tantrums. And you think, so why would a 14-year-old have a tantrum? And it's because they can't regulate themselves. But they made that new diagnosis so that you didn't label an 8-year-old bipolar and give them really heavy medications. Because a lot of those kinds of things kids will outgrow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that is
why not give them the chance to grow and do that? Right.
And that's before puberty. So everything changes at puberty. So
that's correct.
Yes,
I call puberty hormones with feet. And somebody says, well, why do you make the decisions you make? I mean, because I remember one day my son was at high school and I said, so what's the difference between high school and middle school? And a girl walked by with short shorts on and you could see the bottom of her buttocks at the bottom. And he just followed every little movement I went by. And I said, oh, I get it. Right. It's a whole different ballgame.
Whole different ballgame, right?
Whole different ballgame. Mm-hmm.
Now, what about like narcissism? I'm guessing that narcissism is the same where it's always there.
Right. Narcissism is what they call a personality disorder. And so it is a fixed way of seeing the world. It's kind of like you poured your whole personality into a mold. You take away the mold and they don't change. So people with narcissism, they see the world around them and everything is from them, but they don't like have empathy. They can't see anybody else's point of view. They want what they want, how they want it, where they want it, and they will control you to get that. But that's very different than being out of control and driving from Ohio down to Texas to meet somebody for lunch. That's just not what you see with narcissism. So it's a whole different ballgame.
Right. Right. I think a lot of people, because there can be grandiosity with the narcissism, like with the bipolar, and they get stuck on that one little thing. And it's like, well, there can be two things, you know. So
I try to explain to people, it's almost like a tapestry. When you see these set of symptoms, you can't just pull one out. You have to look at the interweaving of how they come together to be able to make some of the diagnosis. It's not like you have one symptom. So you can be tearful when you lose a loved one, and it's really normal. So grief looks like depression. Grief is different. You don't see some of the same things, but you do cry. You are sad. You go over the same topics again and again and again. You may not be able to sleep. But it has a different feel. It has a different sensation. So grief you often recover from. Depression is a different, where it comes and stays, and it's this cloudy day that stays over you. It's like a season that comes and stays.
I experienced that with my dad, and it was like you couldn't say or do anything. It was just
it's dense.
Black. Yes. But my father passed away actually exactly 4 weeks ago today. And the grief that I've had, although has been weird because I've been like, he was such an asshole. Why am I? but he
because on some level you loved him.
Yes.
You know? But there were some other things in there other than the car rides. There were some things that you knew and you loved. And it's hard to separate that when you lose somebody that's done some tough things. So like if you're talking about child abuse, those people still love their parents. And it's hard to walk away from that. It's what they've known.
Yes. Yes.
Same exact idea.
The sensation of grief, though, is definitely it's like you can go from crying to laughing because you just remember something ridiculous that happened and you just start laughing, and then that makes you cry harder, or something you just kind of feel like wacky. But I don't
because
think
you're having memories.
Yes, but the depression that I would see in him when he was down was just like a black hole.
Yeah, I tell people that you're down in the bottom of a hole and all you can see is black. And so that's all the answers you're going to come up with. So when the person was talking about being lonely, when you're down in the bottom of that, all you see is black. So you have to climb back out of that, then see some other colors. Then you can see that there are other options. Because if you're at the bottom of the hole, all you're going to see is black. So you have to change. I tell people, if you have a negative thought, figure out what the opposite is of it, what you want, and work on thinking on that rather than the negative. It is tough to do, but it can be done.
It can be done.
Yes, it can.
Be. It takes practice, and practice makes perfect,
as
they say.
Right.
Now, another thing I've noticed is that, and I've heard this from many people, that with bipolar people will often go off meds because they don't feel right.
Yeah. So the hard part is when you're working. So this is the messy sheet that I use with people that I treat. So you have to stop the up stuff before you can treat the down stuff, because if you treat the down stuff, you flip them into the mania. And so the depressive medicines, we have gotten much better. So one of the things I do is I do genetic testing to figure out what medicines you need personally, not what 1,000 other people need, but what you need. And then you can then select the medicine that works the best for you. The stopping the up stuff is much tougher to do. And they go off of them sometimes because they feel good and I don't need this. And then they're off to the roller coaster again. So it's exceptionally difficult to explain why you need to stay on these medicines. So you may have heard my insulin pump, and I use it and I say, medicines are a tool. You don't want me to stop using the insulin. What you need is for me to choose healthy choices. And so this swings less with it. The same is true of medicines, and they're just a tool. And so you got to find what the person will live with and stay with, because that's how you get healthy.
That makes so much sense, as opposed to one size fits all.
Yeah. Well, there is no one size fits all. That's why you can't go in a store and everybody wear the same thing. One size doesn't fit all. Right?
That's right. Dr. Nan, this is such an interesting topic. You are absolutely fascinating. And I know you've done some amazing things. We'll have to have you come back and talk some more about some other of the wonderful things you've done over the years. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. I look forward to talking to you again.
Yes. How can people reach out to you if they want to reach out to you for some help or referrals or whatever?
So I think they're going to put down there there it is, my email and my cell phone. And if you're in another state, I can't prescribe medicines, but I can certainly do the genetic testing and help you figure out what your body may need. I can take a history. I can listen. So one of the things I really try to do is to take the whole person, and I try to listen about all the other things that are going on and try to figure out, so what can you do first? What can you do without medicine? Like go to bed, go to sleep, night, sweet dreams, right? Eat 3 healthy meals a day. Exercise. So there are studies out there that show that if you're on an antidepressant and you're exercising, exercise far outdoes any medication. So yeah, there's lots of things you can do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We so appreciate you coming on today.
Well, thank you.
All right, everybody, stay tuned for the biohacking tip of the week.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. So in the biohacking segment this week, I'll talk to you something about efficiency. Since in the last episode, we talked a little bit about how to be efficient in the kitchen. I figured I would show you how to save a little bit of time when you're actually cooking. So one of the things that I'm going to do today, actually the only thing I'm going to do today is to show you how to do seasoning salt or herbal salt, Italian salt. So all you have to do is get some salt and spices. And so what I do is I have some bamboo salt here. It's probably a tablespoon and a half bamboo salt. And I have some aromatic powders. This is garlic powder. Put them all in. Onion powder. And then spices wise, it's just whatever you like in your seasoning salt. I have here mustard powder. This is some pimiento powder. And some black pepper, ground black pepper. And as simple as that, just put it all together and mix it. And then when you're done, put this into a container, keep it dry, and you can use it when you're cooking. Now the beauty of this is when you're pre-mixing it, so that when you're cooking, you don't have to go look up for all these spices separately. You just have to bring out this one thing and you can use it. And it will save you a little bit of time, and it's also, depending on the spice you use, it has certain health benefits. For example, if you use turmeric, something like that, it is actually good for an anti-inflammation. So make sure you use dry spices. Otherwise, you're gonna have to keep this in the fridge. So that's the only thing. Make sure you use good spices. Don't put too much. You can adjust it however you want. I use about 1.5 tablespoons of salt to about 1 tablespoon of onion powder. Everything else is about 1 teaspoon. And you can adjust it accordingly to how you want it to taste. But just use something that you like and use a combination that you always use, and that will save you a lot of time in the kitchen. So there you have it. Next time, I'm going to show you another way that I save time in the kitchen. I'll see you back here.
We all hope to age gracefully so we can enjoy later years with energy, vitality, and good health. But so often with age, our bodies show signs of things just aren't the same as they used to be. Our energy, skin, healing recovery time, and sleep all go downhill. If you had physical trauma that happened to your body like I did, this happens much faster. I felt like a 30-year-old trapped in an 80-year-old body. But do you remember as kids, the boundless energy we had, how fast we recovered? This is not because of getting old, but because of active stem cells inside our bodies. These are the cells that can generate and regenerate all the cells and structures in the human body. They are the building blocks of our organs, tissues, blood, and immune system. They also serve as an innate repair system everywhere inside the body. But as we get older, stem cell activity slows down, become less effective in repairing damage, and decline. By the age of 20, we only have 1 billion stem cells left. By 30, they decline by 60%. By 50, they decline by 75%. 60 by 90%. And by 80, we're lucky to have 50 million active stem cells. But what if we can naturally stimulate our bodies to reactivate and regenerate new stem cells through phototherapy without drugs? Now we can with our LifeWave X39 stem cell activation patches. Reclaim your youth and look younger, feel stronger, perform better, and heal faster. Get your patches now at lifewave.com/chronically healthy life. It's not anti-aging, it is reverse aging.
Hello, we are Mutts and Meows Rescue, a 501c3 nonprofit, foster-based, no-kill group. Mutts and Meows Rescue pulls dogs and cats from surrounding shelters in the greater Houston area. We even pick up dogs and cats abandoned on the streets. Mutts and Meows Rescue is foster-based and rely on your donations to keep rescuing. To know more about us is to know more about our furry friends and help them find their forever homes. Come visit us at Mutts and Meows Rescue on Facebook today and decide how you can make a difference.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. So today's, I think the interview is a little different. Like we used to talk a lot about physical health and something more, I guess, tangible,
Mhm.
right? We rarely talk about emotions.
Yes.
So we talked about loneliness earlier, and then Nan talked about something that I wasn't familiar with, but it's actually very eye-opening.
Yeah, like so many people are facing depression, and since we don't face depression, sometimes it's hard to figure out you know why they're facing depression. And I heard of, I have friends that are actually, they tell me they're bipolar. I don't even know what that means. And after today's session with Nan, that definitely opens my eyes, that they are managing, there are certain things that you do need drugs, right? And it seems like this may be one of the situations that medication does help with these symptoms. Because I know for us, we always trying to heal your body holistically and naturally without drugs. But under these conditions, like with the gene test and stuff like that, you can sort of determine what you may need to help with your bipolar tendencies. And because you saw the negative effects, it can be really damaging to not only you but all the people around you too.
Which is interesting because I thought the gene testing is about looking for building like a family tree, or in some cases you might be looking for genetic diseases. I didn't think that it was part of it, but
Yeah.
it's interesting.
That is interesting. That's the first time I heard of that too. I use gene testing for totally different purposes, right? Just to see if you have markers for like diabetes, Parkinson's, and stuff like that. So we can figure out, hey, if you don't tweak your lifestyle, there's a chance these are going to happen. It's not going to mean that you will, but it's good to know that you don't want to be triggering these genes, right? So that's how we use it. But she uses it for a totally different purpose, and it seems to be working and helping a lot of people with bipolar disease.
Yeah, so I love it. So next week, are you gonna be around?
Next week, I am going to be in Florida. I got invited to this golf charity event with one of my really good friends we met in Dubai, Jennifer and Brie. So we're going to be sharing a little bit about our stem cell activation patches out on the golf course, helping people up their game and make more money for charity.
Okay, so I will be here holding down the fort with Christy.
Yes, you and Christy will be holding down the fort. Hopefully, I can jump in depending on how my phone internet connection is for a quick call to let you guys know how things are in Florida. But yeah, next week we have special guest Barry Bevier, and it's going to be interesting because, from my understanding, he is a brain coach. So it'll be interesting what he has to share.
Like a Dominica?
Like similar, yeah. I think he's actually Dr. Amin certified too.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Great. So join us back here on Friday, 7 p.m. CST. You can watch past episodes at watch.e360tv.com in the Vitality TV network and on our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to know more about what we do and how we can help you live a chronically healthy life, visit us on our website at chronicallyhealthylife.com. We'll see you back here next week.
We'll see you next week.
Laura Cross, your host for Mindful Mondays, every Monday, 1 p.m. Central Time, where you can embark on a transformative journey of self-care and ultimate happiness. Tune in to the Voyage to Vitality